Welcome back to the Soul Ecosystem Podcast. I'm your host, Anna Rising, and I am a professional soul contract reader. From soul contracts, past lives, reincarnation, spirituality, subconscious programs, and celebrity soul contracts, we explore it all. Join me as we uncover the hidden layers of the soul and discuss how it shapes our lives. Let's get started. I have a very special episode for you guys today, partly because I am a little under the weather, so I will try to keep this as non-nasal as possible. I'm currently chewing on a cough drop, not chewing on it, but I have a cough drop and I have my tea next to me, and I'm hoping to give you guys a look-see into the numerology of 3 celebrity soul contracts, specifically of the year that they passed away. And we are trying to explore and kind of dive into the role that numerology played for that year for them. Now, in regards to numerology, the way that the numbers are calculated, specifically in the modality that I use, the soul matrix modality, it combines the numbers from the date of birth to calculate 2 to 3 numbers that will influence a certain period of time in a person's life. Usually that period can range from a year and a half, 2 years. Most of the time it's a year or a year and a half. So if you guys are going to be getting year ahead readings, depending on how old you are now, the next period that you're coming into, you are going to be getting a reading based on the next period. So sometimes you might, like if you are 31 and the next numerology that's going to be taking effect for you is from like 31 and a half to 32 and a half, or 31 and a half to 33, I'm going to be giving you guys the numbers for your next cycle. And I think this is very similar to what you see in astrology. I've recently learned what a perfection year is, and it sounds very similar to how the soul matrix modality does it. So basically, I'm seeing that the perfection year in astrology is very similar to the cycles that we see numerologically in soul contracts. So if you guys get your heads, you may see that it's not just for like from 31 to 32, then 32 to 33 age. It could be from 32 and a half to 33 and a half. Without further ado, the 3 celeb soul contracts we are going to be looking into today is Natalie Wood's, Sharon Tate's, and Natasha Richardson's soul contract. This idea like of looking into celebrities that had untimely deaths and looking at the numerology in their charts, it started a few months ago for me, I want to say, definitely last year. I made an Excel sheet trying to see if there's any patterns, if there are any numbers that pop up consistently across the board for some celebrities that do have untimely deaths or some kind of crazy accidents. And there are similarities. There are definitely some patterns popping up, but it is more complicated and more in-depth than I originally thought. I was like, okay, so for sure if somebody has like a 5, 7, 9 in their energy for the year, it's going to mean this and this and this. You really have to take it on a case-to-case basis, which is why I kind of want to give you guys 3 very different soul contracts. I feel like they were very untimely, but these are all influential women. Now, I might make this a monthly thing where I'm looking into different celeb charts that passed away very suddenly, because there are so many good examples of this. There are so many good examples of celebrities that have certain numerology that says that they're more likely to get into car accidents or get seriously injured in something. And it's absolutely crazy. The numerology in the year is very, very accurate. Now, of course, with every number, there's a shadow side and a light side. This is not to say that these people passed away suddenly because they were operating from their negative or from the positive. But the influence of these numbers are there when you look at their soul contract. And it was very likely predestined that they passed away when they did. Nobody passes away before they're ready for it, you know? Now, we are going to start off with Natalie Wood, because I feel like there's a lot of questions surrounding her death, the circumstances of her death. There's a lot of things that don't add up, that don't make sense, and it wasn't properly investigated, like the cause of her death. I don't feel like anybody really cared about what happened to this lady. She was a very famous actress. Natalie Wood was born July 20th, 1938, and she died at the age of 43 on November 29th, 1981. She was on a yacht called the Splendor along with her husband, actor Robert Wagner, and actor Christopher Walken, who was also on the boat for a weekend getaway. According to reports, the evening was filled with drinking and fighting between Wagner and Wood, especially regarding her relationship with Walken, which caused tension. Now, for those of you who don't know, Natalie Wood was married to Wagner before, then they got divorced, and then they got remarried again. And the first time that they divorced, there was rumors going around about infidelity. And Natalie Wood never confirmed it. There was rumors going around that he was unfaithful and she was covering for him. And then there was rumors that she was unfaithful and she didn't deny them because she was covering for his affair. And then after their divorce, they got remarried again. And I read in an article that Christopher Walken, off camera, he said that he heard them arguing the night that she drowned. And I read in a separate article that off camera, Christopher Walken said that he heard Robert Wagner and Natalie Wood arguing that night. And also, apparently, Robert Wagner didn't want to go search for her body when it was discovered that she was missing for 2.5 hours until after the fact. And then all of a sudden he wanted to go searching for her body. It was really weird. Natalie Woods was a child star. She was in Hollywood from a very early age. And there was a lot of skeletons in her closet. There was a history of family violence. She had an alcoholic father. She had a pathological attachment to her mother. She experienced psychological abuse as a child star. She had a lot of phobias, a lot of paranoias. Apparently, she was pimped out to Frank Sinatra at the age of 15 and was exploited sexually as a teenager by 42-year-old director Nicholas Ray to prove that she could play a bad girl in Rebel Without a Cause. In this specific article where I was reading all of this stuff about Natalie Woods, I think they're taking it directly from quotes from her family members and friends, as well as a memoir that her sister started to write. And in this article, it says that a coroner said that, she drowned, she died because of drowning, even though there was bruises on her legs that looked like she was trying to stay on a buoy and somebody was pushing her off of it, or she was trying to climb on the boat and somebody was pushing her off of it. And apparently there was an intern coroner that was examining her body and said all of this, but they were never questioned because they were an intern and he didn't want to come out and say it because he didn't want to rock the boat or something like that. But yes, the coroner officially said that, she drank too much champagne and she was drunk, she fell off the boat and she drowned. And it was never investigated. Robert Wagner was a person of interest, but it was never actually investigated if this was a possible homicide. Nobody was actively investigating it. I think at some point, in 2011. So yeah, in 2011, the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department officially reopened its investigation into Wood's death. Natalie Wood's soul contract chart at the age of 43. We see 3 numbers for her. We see the number 3, we see 4 and 7. Now, some of the positive kind of side effects of the number 3 is pleasant acquaintances, richness and variety in personal life, intimate life, financial success, career growth, and just the presence of this like feminine energy, attractiveness, and abundance. 3 is a very fertile kind of Taurus woman energy, like very grounded, very in her feminine. The side effects of that energy, and 3 is the prominent number for her here for this year. The side effects are being in toxic relationships that lead to nowhere, being humiliated, being not appreciated, dissatisfaction, and specifically issues surrounding money, especially. So when we look at the number 3 operating from the positive, it is very, very fertile, very abundant. Everything's going smoothly. You're receptive and kind of in a very comfortable position. Now, the downside of 3 is that all of these comforts are kind of tested, and you may see your relationship with your partner tested. You may see like questions about infidelity raised. And I'm wondering, since the reason for the first time she divorced Robert Wagner was infidelity, I wonder if that was the reason they were fighting that night on the boat. The next number that comes into play is the 4 energy. And in the positive, this is kind of like a meet cute kind of energy where you meet somebody that's going to be very influential in your life, somebody that's going to change your life in some way. There's a lot of like new things coming in. There could be construction or significant purchases or like projects coming into play for you. However, on the negative, we see very, very serious negative side effects, including pressure, violence, infidelity again, and trouble with a frustrated young man. Mistakes from rebelliousness or excessive passivity, and inability to change a certain outcome to a situation. So I found it very interesting that right off the bat, we already have like 2 instances of this infidelity energy, and now like pressure and violence are coming into play. It's alarming that Christopher Walken kind of didn't take a side here, and neither did the intern coroner. He didn't want to rock the boat. I think they didn't want to ruin Robert Wagner's reputation, but it just feels like Natalie Wood's like justice for her is just swept under the rug. The next number that we are working with is the number 7. So positive things to expect coming out of the 7 energy is good news, offers, new ideas, opportunities, promotion, expansion. This is a very lucky number. There's a chance that you're moving into a new place. Relationships might have this like new feeling to them, like new passion, butterflies in your tummy kind of thing. But the downside of the 7 energy when operating from the negative is stagnation in development, relationships, or work. Obstacles, delays, receiving incorrect information, problems in business, issues with reputation, which wouldn't be surprising at all considered she kind of took the fall for Robert Wagner's infidelity. And then it says there's a risk of accidents, problems with transportation or danger with transportation, or unsuccessful or failed trips or trips that were canceled. And it says that there's also the energy of troubles with traveling because of separation or divorce. So whatever was going on in Robert Wagner's relationship with Natalie Woods, I highly suspect that it was leading to another divorce. And perhaps that is what kind of caused that moment where she, quote unquote, fell over accidentally. So I feel like because Natalie Wood was in the relationship that she was in, it sounded very abusive. It didn't sound healthy to get remarried to somebody that she allegedly walked in on being intimate with somebody else. It doesn't sound healthy. So if you guys see these numbers in your year aheads, I wouldn't automatically jump to the conclusion that, oh, there's going to be violence or there's going to be aggressiveness and pressure. She was in a very toxic relationship from the sounds of it, considering her husband didn't even want to search for her for 2 hours when they discovered she was missing. I feel like the severity of these numbers is different for each person. If you are somebody that has a very high risk kind of job, obviously the severity is going to be cranked up. If you do see warnings in regards to these numbers when you're looking at your year aheads, I would pay attention to them. The majority of the time I have done year ahead readings, they don't specifically say, oh, there's going to be potential for violence or pressure or toxic relationships. The majority of the time I see relationship issues and car accidents. So I usually make it a point to tell people to be especially careful on the road. And that's the energy that was in Natalie Wood's soul contract the year that she passed away. Based off of that, it does feel like there was foul play involved. There's a lot of mention of infidelity. There's even mention of toxic relationships, violence, pressure, frustrated young man. All of these are kind of like pieces of a puzzle. So that's what I have for the year that she passed away. Let's look into Sharon Tate's numerology for the year that she passed away. When Natalie Wood passed away, she was 43. Sharon Tate passed away at 26 years old. For those of you not familiar with Sharon Tate, she was a very young actress and so beloved. She was absolutely beloved. Everybody only had great things to say about her, how she was like the gentlest, sweetest, kindest person you can come across. And she was actually murdered when she was 8 months pregnant. So trigger warning there if you don't want any additional information on that. I'm not going to go into like incredible detail. I'm not going to go into much detail at all, but if you want to just move on to the next part, you can do so. So Sharon Tate, who was 8 months pregnant at the time, was staying at her home in LA with several of her friends. Her husband, Roman Polanski, was in London at the time working on a film project. On the night of August 8th, Sharon had her friends over, and the house was invaded by members of the Manson family, a cult led by Charles Manson, who directed his followers to carry out the killings as part of his delusional plan to start a race war. At around midnight, 4 members of the Manson family broke into the house, carrying out Manson's order to kill everyone inside. And I was wondering for such a long time, because I feel like this murder is very well known. I was wondering if it was directly related to Sharon Tate, like if there was some kind of vendetta there. Like, why her? Why specifically her and her friends? And it turns out it wasn't, it was completely senseless. It was just because of who lived in that house before Sharon Tate. So it wasn't even directly targeted at her and her friends. It was targeted at the previous owner of the house. Sharon was the first victim. She was stabbed multiple times. So Sharon Tate's death, along with the death of her friends, became a media sensation and one of the most notorious and horrific crimes in American history. So truly senseless acts. It feels like, first of all, Sharon Tate has such a beautiful energy. She is an Aquarius, I believe, born January 24th. And she gives me like Pleiadian vibes. She gives me like not of this world vibes, because I think I've watched a documentary on this before, and she was just the sweetest soul. So it's absolutely tragic and horrific what happened to her. And we're going to go look into the numerology for that year for her, the year that she was 26. She has 3 numbers for that year: 5, 21, and 11. Now, 5 is the energy of family. It ushers in this energy of family, marriage, having children, becoming pregnant, So that is very spot on for the point of life that she was in. So the negative side of the number 5 talks about violation of rights, inappropriate behavior, either being done to them or being done by them, conflicts, disputes, and issues with relationships, issues with relatives, issues with family. 5 also talks about the possibility of getting dragged into a cult. And for a second, I'm like, hold on. Was there involvement on Sharon Tate's part in this cult? I don't think so, but I think that it's very interesting that there's this like energy of something cult-like happening here, of something that's cult-ish coming in because of who she was murdered by. The next number that we see come into play for her is 21. Now, the energy of 21 is about traveling the world to do job opportunities, meeting foreigners, like going to a foreign country, living in a foreign country, marrying a foreigner, and becoming pregnant. So this is all about kind of really, really new energy, really world energy. And you see the pregnancy thing manifesting. So the negative side of the 21 is stagnation, restrictions, specifically surrounding travel, surrounding movement, and there could be problem with travel documents. There could be problems with travel, with cars, car accidents, and violations of boundaries. The next number and final number for Sharon Tate's year, the year she passed away, is the number 11. The number 11 in the positive is one of a lot of action. It's a lot of energy expenditure. There's a lot of like energy of things being brought to life, like perhaps a new business idea, a new venture. You open up your own business or you grow a business that you already have. Either way, you're going towards something. You're growing in some shape or form. The downside of that energy is you eventually burn yourself out if you don't spend your energy wisely. So the negative side effects of that is lack of energy. You get really tired, weak, inability to like fulfill the projects or promises that you've made. This burnout can lead to complete loss of strength, depression, and just the collapse of something that you've been working on because you didn't manage it properly. Hard work that doesn't bring any results, and the energy of sexual abuse. So we see that actively play out in Sharon Tate's life. There's a lot of the pregnancy energy, a lot of the family-centeredness energy in that year for her from the 5 and the 21. There's also the cult energy. But yes, you see these energies playing out for her at that time before her passing. I don't think anything could have possibly predicted the level of like just monstrosity that happened to her at that age. Like that was absolutely insane. But as you guys can see, there's some influence of that there. And for whatever reason, her soul decided that that was the time to go. That was the way. The next person that I wanted to look into is Natasha Richardson. Natasha Richardson holds a special place in my heart because of her playing the mom in Parent Trap with Lindsay Lohan. If you guys are familiar with that movie, it's still a comfort movie of mine. I remember watching that movie as a kid and thinking that Natasha Richardson was the most beautiful lady I've ever seen. So the fact that she died at age 45 in a freak skiing accident definitely threw me for a loop. So let me give you guys a little backstory on this. Natasha Richardson was born May 11th, 1963. And on March 16th, 2009, she was vacationing with her family in Canada. She was skiing on a beginner's slope when she fell. Initially, she appeared uninjured and even joked about the fall, which to her seemed pretty minor. She felt fine and she declined medical attention, but several hours later, she began experiencing a headache and wasn't feeling well. This delayed onset of symptoms was a crucial factor in this tragedy. Later, it was determined that she had suffered a traumatic brain injury caused by the fall. While initially appearing to be conscious and alert, she had sustained a subdural hematoma, a brain hemorrhage, which is a life-threatening condition that can quickly worsen without immediate medical intervention. After her symptoms worsened, Natasha was flown to New York City's Lenox Hill Hospital. Her condition deteriorated rapidly, and she was placed on life support and passed away on March 18th, 2009, surrounded by her family, including her husband, actor Liam Neeson, and their 2 sons. So she died at the age of 45, and it was a skiing accident. She felt fine afterwards, so she thought it was no big deal, and she just carried on until she started feeling really bad. And I wanted to look into her soul contract to see if there was any indications that she could be in some kind of accident. And the numbers that were in her soul contract for the year that she passed away when she was age 45 were 10, 9, and 19. 9 is usually the end of a cycle. If you're looking at numerology, like 1 is usually the beginning of cycles and 9 is like the end of the cycle. So 9 is a very like transformative kind of period. And 10 is all about luck and abundance, but the energy of the number 10, when manifesting on the shadow side, alludes to abrupt and bad changes that are kind of unavoidable. So right off the bat, I'm like, okay, number 10 is her primary number for the year, and it automatically states a serious illness or injury. So the negative shadow side of the number 9 is kind of problems with relationships kind of falling apart, like you stop communicating with certain people, relatives, loved ones, and there may be this feeling of loneliness because you've kind of got no contact with somebody. And then the final number for her for that year was the number 19, and the negative shadow side of that number is your reputation kind of going downhill, alienation, and kind of like external opinion of you changing. And I don't see the bad reputation playing in to this energy negatively, but as far as her soul contract alluding to there being a risk of serious injury, spot on. For Sharon Tate, alluding to pregnancy, cult-like energy, there is some of that. For Natalie Wood's infidelity, toxic relationships, frustrated young man, it also all checks out. And I want you guys to keep that in mind when you're looking at your soul contracts and the numbers for your year ahead. This is definitely something to reflect on, especially on warnings in regards to injuries, or like for the number 11, especially there's like this overworking tendency. And if you overwork yourself and burn yourself out, it could lead to serious health issues. So in an effort to avoid that, there is this call to make a routine or to balance your energy expenditure in a way that is manageable for you. So these 3 celebrities are a really good example of how numerology can allude to certain things happening in your life. I feel like you only see like, oh, okay, like I got pregnant that year, or I got married that year after it happens. But if your soul contract says that there's a possibility for this happening, there's a possibility for it happening. So that's all I wanted to share with you guys today. I wanted to keep this short. If you guys were interested in other celeb soul contracts and the numerology for the year they passed away, if they passed away in an untimely fashion, please let me know. Send me a DM or a comment. If you guys have any other untimely or suspicious celeb deaths that you want to know about, that you want to learn about, and the numerology in their soul contracts for the year they died, please let me know. Give me a comment, send me a DM. You can find me on the Soul Ecosystem on Instagram or the Soul Ecosystem podcast on Instagram. And let me know if you guys enjoy learning about this kind of stuff. Thank you so much for tuning in to episode 14. Episode 14 on Valentine's Day. I just realized this. This is going to be the 14th episode on February 14th. Happy Valentine's Day, guys. Thank you so much. Sending you all so much love. Again, please like, subscribe, review. Have a wonderful weekend and tune in next Friday for episode 15. Thank you all so much.